Federal Reserve lent the banks $16.3 trillion.
And tried to keep it secret and did for over 3 years. Exactly. Exactly.
And we only found out when somebody, who was it? Who released that?
Bloomberg sued him, and a bunch of other stuff happened. And by the way, that's only part of it.
Well, but you see, what I'm saying is the real money that the banks got was not the TARP money that Paulson was threatening the Congress about blood in the streets. The real money was just given to them quietly by the Federal Reserve. And what I'm saying is that is how the Central Bank of Europe should deal with the crisis there now.
No, exactly. This is a huge issue you've raised, is that they're doing it the hard, long way to basically grandstand politically. So, in your opinion, why are they doing it that way?
Well, one possible reason, and probably the most likely reason, and it's the one that we've already mentioned, that Trichet himself revealed, was that they're going to use the crisis in order to take away financial independence of the countries that make up the EU. So Greece will no longer have the politicians in Greece, the elected politicians of Greece will no longer be able to decide public spending and taxing in Greece or borrowing.
The power of the purse being transferred to the private finance oligarchs, to the EU bureaucracy.
Well, it'll be to the EU bureaucracy. And you see, once the bureaucracies get this money, get this power, they can turn on all the private industry.
Well, the power to tax is the power to destroy. And Herman von Rompuy said that 2011 is the year of the birth of world government. And it's a private, corporate, anti-free market world government. It is absolutely incredible. Now, shifting gears, you've talked a lot about police state USA, checkpoints all over the country with the Army, full car scanners, driving families under them, TSA behavior. You know, for me looking at it, 9/11 has turned into this disgusting holiday celebrating not land of the free, home of the brave, but a bunch of perseverating ninnies scared of their own shadows. I watch film footage, news footage of police in Dallas, New York, Chicago, you name it, in full battle gear with guns strapped to them, shaking in fear and looking at everyone like they were, you know, I mean, even if terror was real, statistically, you've got a better chance of being struck by lightning or honeybee sting. And then a man and woman make out for 3 minutes in a bathroom. They're clearly giggling and laughing. They land the plane. Police come on and say, according to ABC News, anybody gets up, you're all dead. A box blows out of a truck. They shut down I-35 and panic like it's the end of the world. I mean, I feel like I'm living in a twilight zone. What's your view of America 10 years later? Because it looks like instead of it dissipating, it's only getting worse.
That's right. You know, Alex, my view is that all this terrorist stuff is a total hoax. They're not any terrorists. They don't exist. We call the Taliban terrorists because they resist our occupation of their country. But they're not any terrorists. You know, all of the alleged terrorists that the FBI has dredged up over here were products of FBI stings. The FBI went out and organized them. And they find deranged people, and people aren't too bright, and they offer them money, and they say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And the people are glad to have the money, and they say, okay, and then they arrest them. All of a sudden, they're terrorists. This is the only terrorists they've come up with. If there were any terrorists, now, just ask yourself, would Richard Pearl still be alive? Would Wolfowitz? Would Donald Rumsfeld? None of these people have Secret Service. They have no protection. If there are all these dangerous Al-Qaeda terrorists, they could very easily take out the whole neoconservative crowd in one day, in 1 hour. Anybody that could pull off 9/11, if we're to believe Al-Qaeda pulled off 9/11, they can exterminate the neoconservatives. But not a single one of these neoconservatives lives in any fear.
Well, what about Rumsfeld in Human Events this weekend? They have an audio interview with him, and he said, you cut defense budget, you'll be hit by terrorists. I saw Cheney 7-8 years ago on Meet the Press, and he said, if you have a 9/11 investigation, there will be a nuclear attack in America. I mean, it's so thinly veiled that they're holding everybody hostage, demanding all this money.
Right, but there's still no terrorists. Now, think about all this airport security stuff. Where did it come from? It came from an underwear bomber, a shoe bomber, and a shampoo and bottled water bomber. Now, think about these plots. Are these likely plots to come from Al-Qaeda, who pulled off 9/11, outwitted every intelligence agency in the Western world?
No, they're mentally ill patsies who were drugged up trying to light their shoes.
Obviously, anybody that could pull off that isn't going to have a shoe bomb that doesn't work, an underwear bomb that doesn't work, or have some crazy stuff about shampoo and bottled water bomb. So it's just not going to happen. And so these things were all, they found some stooge, and they put them up to this. And the bombs never would have gone off. They weren't supposed to go off. They were supposed to cause an incident that they can use for Chertoff to sell tens or hundreds of millions of dollars of porno scanners to American airports. That's what these things are for. There's not any. If there were a terrorist, he wouldn't be bothering with an airplane. He would simply go into the security line, waiting to go through the porno scanners and set off the bomb there. It killed far more people.
You're absolutely right, Dr. Roberts. In closing, I want to talk about your latest book for a moment. But then we were talking off air before we went to you live here, and you were discussing the fact that they had that big 9/11 investigation hearing up in Canada. And I was watching some of the people they had there. These are famous architects that have built 60, 70-story skyscrapers. Some of the prominent names I've heard of, and I'm not into architecture, very distinguished people, and physicists and scientists. And, well, you had a comment about people that call them truthers and laugh at them. So give me your view on that, and then tell us briefly about your War of the Worlds book.
Well, the truth movement, the 9/11 truth movement, was created by professionals, architects, engineers, very distinguished scientists, people like, with 60 scientific papers to their credit. And these people, of course, know far more about it than the idiots who run around criticizing them and calling them conspiracy kooks. The people who run around, calling them conspiracy kooks don't know anything. They're not architects. They're not engineers. They don't have PhDs in physics and chemistry. They haven't published 60 papers. They're not world famous. They're nobodies. They know nothing. They're just stupid people. And what happens when they run around and call, see, the trouble is there are a lot of people like me and you, and we're not experts and physicists and all the rest. And a lot of these people shoot off their mouths and they say, oh, Cheney put the explosives on the building and blah, blah. And they don't know anything either. Well, those aren't the truthers. The truthers are the professionals who have their organizations, who spent years doing research, and recently they presented it all at hearings in Toronto. There were 4 days of hearings. And the evidence is in. It's massive evidence. There's no doubt that the NIST reports are fraudulent. They're just frauds. The 9/11 Commission report is fraudulent. These are frauds. It's
their own commissioners, 6 of the 10 have said that. And now, I agree with you to an extent that you've had the former German defense minister, former head of their CIA, Andres von Bülow. I interviewed him 9 years ago. He went public and said it was an inside job. You've got, the number 3 in the Japanese government. You've got the former Italian president.
Listen, before we get in, let's just come back to these expert scientists, chemists, architects, engineers. They don't say it's an inside job. It's an implication. They don't say anything about who did it or why. They simply say that there's no evidence to support the NIST reports, and that all of the important evidence was excluded from the 9/11 Commission report.
So it's more like Galileo arguing
They're just
with the Vatican,
saying that the explanation is false. That's all they say.
Yeah.
They don't say anything about it being inside or anything like that.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, in closing on that subject, I see it as almost like Galileo going to the Vatican and saying, look, I'm sorry, the world is not the center of the universe. And they're laughing at him and saying, no, yes, it is. And basically trying to lock him up in jail. And I think in the final equation, that's why the official story people are going to fail, because their official story is a fraud. But I'm saying separately from scientists, just with the technicals, you've got former experts, heads of intelligence operations, Italian presidents. You've got people like that saying politically it's impossible, and look at the PNAC document. Then you have folks like myself, before 9/11, being able to analyze media propaganda as a media expert and seeing the conditioning for a terror attack coming and being able to call it. But I do think some of the strongest evidence is just the physics. I agree with you. Tell us about your book.
Well, it's out of print now. It sold out, and I don't think they're going to print anymore. And what the book does is to show that our real problem is the jobs offshoring. It's been going on so long. There's so many now middle-class jobs moved abroad. It's taken with them so much consumer income, so much tax base, so many career opportunities, that we now have a very high and permanent rate of unemployment in the United States. We've lost supply chains. There's some things we simply can't make anymore. And this was all done for the short-run profits of Wall Street and the corporations. The only people who benefited were shareholders, the CEOs who got performance-based bonuses, some multiple of their salaries, and Wall Street. So they all made more money in the short run, and in the process destroyed the American consumer market.
And that's why your book is so important, because it actually addresses the real problems. Now, I know there's an ebook version, though, isn't there still?
Not that I know of. I asked Alexander Coben at Counterpunch to do that, but I haven't heard back.
Well, we need to make sure that happens, but there are certainly copies out there. It's an excellent book. It's War of the Worlds, How the Economy Was Lost. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Roberts.
Pleased to be with you, Alex.
Always great to have you. Well, that's it for InfoWars Nightly News. We'll be back tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central. I'll also, of course, see you on the radio/TV, Alex Jones Live, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central Time as well. The websites are InfoWarsNews.com and PrisonPlanet.tv. If you're watching this on a file-sharing network or on YouTube, please spread the clips to everyone you know. And if you'd like to support truly alternative media that's seeking to build a better world, then please subscribe at PrisonPlanet.tv. We are not just the alternative media, we are the real media. I'm Alex Jones, signing off from the front lines of the InfoWar.